Hello and welcome. I'm Kathy Lee from Kathy's Creative Place. I have a new project to share with you today. This project I made from the July Craftology Box from Country Craft Creations, and this is a simple little travel journal. And the paper that is in the Craftology Box this month is Prima's Santorini Collection. The paper is very shabby chic. It has kind of a beachy feel. A lot of um, a lot of the imagery is of Santorini and beaches, ocean, water. Just really pretty collection. I'm also going to show you how to make this today. This one I used very simply with a tie on the cover. It's actually run through the back of your paper, but it's the seam binding that came in the kit. And for the front cover, I used this kind of beachy towel print is what I call it. It looks like a beach towel. And then I also used one of the cut-aparts, matted it on cardstock, and then popped it up on some chipboard. I also used this little border that came from the border sheet that says, "Want to feel the wind, the sun, the ocean? I want to feel the wind, sun, ocean." Really cute little theme for my travel journal. And then of course the spine. This collection also has a lot of foils in it. It's a real pretty turquoise foil, and I use this as another border from the paper collection. It says "Blame it on my wild heart," and that's the reason why I use this cut apart. It just goes with the theme of my journal. And then this paper on the back is kind of has marbly looking paper with, again, the turquoise foils. They're just absolutely beautiful. Okay, so you open the journal up, and you can actually fit an iPad mini in this journal. I'm also going to show you how you can fit a Kindle Fire if you have one of those. It's a little larger than the iPad mini, so I'll adjust cutting guides for the Kindle Fire as well. And here and it's the Kindle Fire version 8, so it's just a little taller than the iPad mini, so it just needs an extra 1/4 inch for in the pocket. So for this one, I also added a pen holder. You can also use elastic if you like, and but with this one I just used the pattern paper, and I covered it with acetate so it's nice and sturdy. Allows me to get that pen in and out all quite a bit without tearing the paper or anything. I also cut this from the paper for my own 3x4 pocket, so to speak, and then I added a few of the cut-aparts from the collection. These would be great to put inside my book. And in the booklet part, this is just copy paper, your basic copy paper. I have like 12 sheets, and I just punched some holes, drew it together with a simple cover of, this is kind of that shimmery paper. It's really pink. It goes great with this collection. And I used some bigger twine to tie it together. So I made my little booklet, and this is where I will journal or create notes in for when I travel. And then on the back side, it just has a simple pocket that holds the booklet. You can also get I have some other booklets from some other journals. You can also use one that you can find at any of your craft stores. This is from Webster's Pages, and they actually fit right in there nicely as well. Okay, so I'm going to slide this together. Oh, also, before I forget, I have an iPad mini, but I also have a cover. And I love this cover because you can stand it on a desk and uh, read or watch a movie or uh, do some searching on the internet. But the cover also fits inside, so I made it wide enough so it would fit this. For the Kindle, some of the Kindle covers are really thick and huge, so I did not accommodate for that for the Kindle. Okay, so I'm just going to close this up and set it aside. I may refer to it during the tutorial here, but you'll need some cardstock, and I've already got mine pre-cut here, and I'm going to share them with you so you know exactly what you'll need. Okay, for the cover, we're going to cover we're going to cover our chipboard, and we need 2 pieces of cardstock for that. So the chipboard covers are 7¼ by 10 inches, and I've cut 2 of them. And then we're just going to adhere them with 1/4 inch score tape. So the final cover size is actually 14¼ by 10. Okay, so you'll need those 2 pieces. And also the measurements are in the description. So if I'm going too fast, you can just refer to the description. Okay, and then for the iPad mini cover, well, here, let's go to the inside of the cover. So the inside cover of the of your booklet is 8½ by 12, and that's the only pieces we're going to use to cover the inside of our chipboard. And then for the iPad mini pocket, you'll need a piece of cardstock cut at 6¾ by 10. And then for the right pocket, it measures 5½ by 9½ inches. Okay, so we're going to score those and go through this entire process, covering our chipboard from front to back. Okay, so also you will need some copy paper or computer paper if you're going to make the booklet with me. 12 sheets, and all 12 sheets are cut at 8 inches by 10 inches. Okay, and then the chipboard. The chipboard, you'll need 2 pieces cut at 5¾ by 8½, and then the spine is 3/4 by 8½. And I've already adhered my score tape on it. Okay, so we're gonna set these aside and we're gonna work on our covers. So all I'm simply gonna do is take my score tape off of my 7¼ by 10 inch pieces of cardstock. I'm right-handed, so I like to start from the right side. Okay, there we go, and it's as simple as that. And I'm just burnishing my spine here. So again, you'll end up with a measurement of 14¼ by 10 inches. Okay. Now, if you're like me, I follow Ginger up, and I like the way she measures and uses her score pile as to create guidelines for the chipboard. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my paper in here, and I'm going to score at 3/4 on the left side. Then I'm going to rotate it 90 degrees, and then again 3/4. And you don't have to go all the way down, because once we start from the left and moving right, you won't need it. Okay, so I'm going to just take my first piece of chipboard, Okay, so if you like, you can put 14 or excuse me, a quarter-inch score tape in between each one, but because I've cut this down to fit my my chipboard exactly, I'm not going to use a quarter of an inch. I'm going to use more like about 3/16, just a little over an eighth of an inch, and I only eyeball it because it just feels natural. If you want, you can use your ruler or something to help you uh, create that guide. And again, just about 3/16 of an inch. Which is going to put me about 3/4 of an inch on this side. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and burnish my cardstock. Now you can use half-inch score tape on this, or even quarter if you have, whatever you have. Now for your corners, I like a mitered corner at my for my albums. So I usually just trim it off and I leave about an eighth of an inch from the corner of the chipboard from where I cut. It will give me plenty of maneuverability so I can push that in when I get ready to cover the chipboard. Okay, so I'm going to continue to do that. However, if you're more comfortable using Tammy's method, where she actually cuts up through here, folds it, and then cuts out this whole corner, you are certainly go ahead and use that if you're more comfortable with that. Okay, now I'm gonna kind of bend my chipboard so I can train it. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and take all of my score tape off. And I also use wet glue. I like to use wet glue around the edges to adhere really nicely against the chipboard, so I'll be using glue around all of these edges. Okay. And of course, the only glue to use is art glitter glue, and you can find this at Tammy's store at countrycraftcreations.com. She does have it in stock, only carries it during the warmer season. She will not ship during the winter because it does freeze. And in fact, the company that sells it won't even ship to their retailers until it's warmer season. Okay. And I'm just going to push that glue right up against the edge and start pushing down where the score tape will adhere completely to the chipboard. And burnish. Okay. I do top and bottom, and then I come back and do the sides. Okay, now I'm going to do this side, and I'll show you what I mean when I'm curling my corners. Okay, what I like to do is I like to take my bone folder and I push that in toward that glue. In fact, if there's glue underneath, the better. So just push it in like this. And the other side as well. So that it lays nice and flat. And then I'm ready to put my sides down the corners. So there you have a nice finished corner. Okay, so I'll be doing that on this side. Now, before we put our other cardstock to hide our seams here for our book, I'm just going to train it a little bit. There we go. Okay. Now, the piece of cardstock that is 12 by 8.5, we are going to adhere right on top of here. Now I did not cut this a little shorter than this piece, so I think I will trim it just a tad so it won't overhang in my book. So I'm just going to take off 1/8 of an inch, make sure that cut, 1/8 of an inch along the 8.5 inch side. So now it's more like 8 3/8 instead of, or excuse me, 8 1/8 instead of 8 1/4. Okay. Now it's not going to go all the way across your book, and that's okay. The reason I say that is when we put our pocket on for our booklet, the right pocket, we're going to put it right along here, so it's going to cover it anyway. Okay, so for this, I'm just going to be using score tape around the edges, and then in the middle. I do use wet glue sometimes, but for this, since it's going to be, this type of book is going to be handled a little bit more often, I want to make sure that it's nice and sturdy. Okay, let's set this aside. Now I'm going to use some whiter score tape on here. We're going to put our paper down. Just like so. There we go. And then again, I'm burnishing. If there's marks or anything when you burnish, don't worry about, because we're gonna cover it anyway. You just want it nice and adhered. Okay. Now again, we're gonna want to train those corners so they'll bend in. Doing this, it actually tears the fibers of the paper and allows it to become more flexible. Okay, there we go. Ta-da! Okay, and that is our covered booklet. All right, now at this point, it's probably a good time to put your ribbon, like on mine. So before you cover the back, what I did is I just found the middle of my ribbon and I put it along here, adhere it with score tape, and then I put my pattern paper on top. So this is all one piece of ribbon rather than, you know, doing two pieces. Just use one piece. It'll be nice and strong. Okay. For this one, however, I am going to be using some lace, elastic lace that Tanny carries in her store. So I'm going to take this, and you can actually use any type of decorative lace that you might have. But I'm going to take this and I'm going to adhere it back here. And then this way you can just draw it over the top. I'll make it fairly tight, but not so tight you can't get it off. So I'll probably sew it and then use some fabric glue to adhere it underneath my spine. I think if I do it under my spine, that would be the best way to use this. And it's really pretty too. So that should keep it closed and decorative as well. Okay. So let's move that out of the way. We're going to start working on the iPad mini pocket, and this is the 6 3/4 by 10 inches, and for this we're going to score. You'll need your scoreboard. So we are going to score first on the 10-inch side at 1/2 inch, 7/8, that's only 3/8 more, 7/8, then at 9 1/8, Again, that's 9 1/8, and the measurements are in the description. So if you need to refer to those, they're in the description. And then 9 1/2. Okay, so what we've done is we've created two flaps that we're going to adhere to our book, and then this is actually the gusset or pocket portion of our iPad for our iPad Mini, and that measures 3/8. And then on the 6 3/4 inch side, we're going to score at 1/2 inch. And again at 7/8. That creates the pocket gap or gusset. And then again at 6 1/4. That's all the scoring we'll be doing on this piece. Okay. Now, here's kind of where it gets a little bit tricky. This piece here, where you've only scored 1/2 inch, we're actually going to fold for our pocket, and it will give us a nice finish. So before we do that, I'm going to need to make some marks on my paper because we're going to make a cut, an angled cut, like we did here in this book. This angled cut right here, and it's really, really simple. And then we will fold a 1/2 inch for that pocket. Okay, so I'm gonna mark. Okay, I don't want to confuse anybody, so this is how it would lay in our book. So this top, bottom, left, and right. Okay, 2 inches. I'm gonna make a mark at 2 inches on my second score line, just with my pencil, right there. Then I'm also going to do that over here at the bottom right, but I'm going to put my pencil marking right here on that 1/2 inch score line. Okay, now, so these are the marks right here that we made for our fold line. So I'm going to take my ruler and put it at 1/2 inch. So there's my first marking at the top. Here's my second marking at the bottom. I'm just going to draw a line there, and then I'm going to use my trimmer to trim that off. You can use your scissors if you like as well. Okay, now your pocket looks like this. Okay, now you'll need your scoreboard again, and we're going to take that piece and we're going to score it right here on the 6 inch line. So I'm just going to use my ruler as a guide and put my point that little marking in that score line, and then I'm just going to take my bone folder and score along those 2 points, this one and this one. Okay. Now we're going to fold on that score line. We're going to get rid of some excess cardstock once we fold on these two pieces. So just burnishing it down. Okay, Now that I've got that folded, I'm going to fold this piece back on the score line. Okay. Okay, so now what that does is it's created a little bit of bulk in here. So I'm just going to open this up, and I'm going to take my scissors, and I'm going to take out just this little piece that is creating that bulk. So now your pocket looks like this. And what we're going to do, we're going to adhere this down. Might want to trim that up even more. We're going to adhere this down to the back and then adhere this one forward. And that's going to help create some strength so that when you're getting your iPad mini or your Kindle out of the book, it's not going to ruin this edge because it's nice and folded and created a nice strong edge. Okay, so go ahead and fold on all your other score lines. Okay, now that we've scored on all of our score lines, we're going to take some pieces out. This one, where it has the edged pocket, we're going to leave alone because that's also going to create some strength for our pocket. And it's a nice finished edge there. On the outer corners, though, we're going to cut up to the second score line on the second score line here. So you've got, I know you can see that. So you've got these two score lines and then these two. Just cut right up to that second score line. And then we're going to do the same here. We're going to cut this off completely. And then we're going to trim that tab. So now you have this. All right, we're going to do the same thing over here. So on the second score line from the top, trim to the second score line, your horizontal score line, and then we're going to cut out the outer part and then trim the tab. There you go, and your piece should look like this. Okay? All right. Now what we're going to do, we're going to go ahead and adhere this down. Oops, I almost forgot this piece. Okay, yeah, we're going to leave that. Okay, so we're going to adhere this down against the cardstock. We're going to take our tabs and create our wide pocket with our tabs. Okay, so I'm just going to put a little glue here in my tab and then bring that up to the corner. It's nice and squared. Oops, I did not want to adhere. Just need to push it down a little bit more. Give it some pressure and it'll stay. Okay, I've got to do the same thing on here. At the top. Okay. Now, I'm going to take my pieces on the edge here, and I am going to miter them because I don't want them hanging out the end of my book. And then put a little glue there. Push it down. And I have this little square ruler that I like to push them down against to make sure it's giving me a nice square edge. And it allows me to really apply some pressure too, whereas doing it with your fingers sometimes doesn't always work. Okay, there's that piece. Now we're going to do this one just the same. I'm going to put a little glue here. Try and keep that back. Get my little squared ruler. Push that right up against there. Hold it just a little bit, and then once the once the glue starts to dry, it'll be really, really sturdy. Okay. Now, there we have our iPad mini pocket, and that's going to go right in this side of our booklet. Now, the one thing that I do want to share with you, for if you're making this for the Kindle Fire, I made a prototype piece here. This is this will fit the Kindle Fire. The pocket, however, you'll just need to adjust it from the top to the bottom, and it still won't hang out. So when you close it, you're not going to see the pocket. Does that make sense? Okay. And again, the cutting guides and measurements are all in the description. Okay. Now, I'm going to put that aside for right now, and we're going to work on the right-hand pocket. And that is 5.5 by 9.5. And we're going to need to get our scoreboard out. And we are going to score along the on three sides. So twice on the 9.5 and once on the 5.5. So with the 9.5 against the top of the scoreboard, you'll score it 1/2 inch, 9 inch, rotate 90 degrees, and 1/2 inch along the 5.5 inch side. Okay, that's all you need for the scoreboard. And we're just going to fold on our score lines. I'm going to just cut right to the corner and a little bit inwards so that the corners they don't overlap here. That way it doesn't create any more bulk than you really need. So right to that corner and then out. And it'll give you a nice flat pocket. Okay. Alright, and that is our right side pocket. And this concludes part 1 of this tutorial.